Welcome back to Noir Alley. I'm your host, Eddie Muller. This week's show commemorates the birthday of one of the 20th century's great composers, Bernard Herrmann. Now, to mark the occasion, I'm presenting one of his rare excursions into the world of film noir, On Dangerous Ground, released by RKO in 1951. Now, most movie lovers know the composer from his scores to several Alfred Hitchcock movies of the 50s and early 60s. Herrmann's music was essential to the mood and tension of films like Vertigo, North by Northwest, and Psycho, three of the most memorable scores ever. But if you've never seen On Dangerous Ground, you might be surprised to hear some of the same musical motifs and arrangements Herrmann used in those well-known suspense classics, although this film was released more than 5 years before his first collaboration with Hitchcock. Herrmann's music is unlike any other written for a film noir, a dramatic clash of brass, strings, and percussion that goes a long way toward unifying the film's unusual, almost schizophrenic structure. The story concerns a bitter and violent cop named Jim Wilson, played in typical seething style by Robert Ryan. Unlike many of his fellow cops in noir films of the early 50s, Jim Wilson isn't corrupt. It's righteous anger that makes him a ticking time bomb. Rather than suspend him for his brutal tactics, his boss sends him upstate, hoping a change of scenery will cool him off. Instead, Wilson barges in on the manhunt for a child killer. Director Nicholas Ray read the source novel, Gerald Butler's Mad with Much Heart, in 1949. He felt it would make a powerful film and provide a terrific role for Ryan, with whom Ray had just made the disappointing melodrama Born to be Bad. But nobody at RKO was enthusiastic about the project, especially given the turmoil the studio was in due to Howard Hughes's capricious and chaotic management. Production chief Sid Rogel wasn't keen on risky, arty productions. But Robert Ryan pushed for it, and Nick Ray talked his old ally, John Houseman, into coming aboard as producer, even though, in Houseman's words, it was a distasteful and unproductive atmosphere, one to which I developed an intense and debilitating allergy. Well, the first order of business was shifting the story to America, from the British countryside where the novel takes place. Houseman and Ray wanted writer Charles Schnee to do the adaptation. He'd provided the final script for Ray's debut feature, They Live by Night, and the trio were congenial collaborators. When Schnee wasn't available, Houseman turned to screenwriter Buzz Bazarides, who'd been writing smart, hardscrabble scripts throughout the 1940s. Bazarides and Ray got on famously, producing a treatment vastly different from the book. Ray had become obsessed with the daily routine of policemen, and he wanted to capture, for the first time on screen, the fear and dread cops face on a daily basis. He and Bazarides went on numerous ride-alongs with police in L.A. and Boston, seeing firsthand the worst a big city has to offer. They gleaned so much material, the first half of the script just kept growing and growing. It's quite a while before co-star Ida Lupino even appears, playing a self-reliant blind woman connected to the upstate manhunt. Now, this odd structure, with the first half confined to the underbelly of the city, and the second half exploding into bright wintry snowscapes, was considered by the studio execs and many critics the film's fatal flaw. Everybody seemed to prefer one half over the other. Not even Houseman and Bazarides were convinced the bifurcated storyline worked. That's where Bernard Herrmann came to the rescue. He and Houseman had years earlier worked with Orson Welles' Mercury Theater of the Air. Then Herrmann's first film score was for Welles' Citizen Kane. And it was Houseman who hired the mercurial composer for this film, giving him the rare contract that allowed him to compose, orchestrate, and conduct the entire score. Herrmann admired Ray's dynamic storytelling and set out to create a score which, rather than musically melding the film's two halves, would emphasize the differences. Herrmann saw the film's structural dichotomy as representative of the battle between good and evil in human nature, and he orchestrated it accordingly, with violent, brass-heavy scherzos crashing against plaintive passages that employed woodwinds, strings, even a harp. To convey the serenity of Ida Lupino's character, Herman employed a single unique instrument, the viola d'amore, played by soloist Virginia Majewski. The instrument, her own, dated back to 1739, and Herman was so enchanted by its redolent tone and Majewski's playing that he demanded she get an on-screen credit. Now, Ray may not have gotten his first choice in screenwriters, but he did get the cinematographer he wanted, George Discant, who'd done spectacular work on Ray's first film, They Live by Night. By 1950, Discant had shot many of RKO's finest noir films, but by the time this production got underway, in March of 1950, he was no longer at RKO, having decamped to the less stressful environs of Columbia. RKO borrowed him for the shoot at $750 a week, and Discant earned every penny, capturing the shadowy tenements and back streets of the dark city and the blindingly bright winter scenes filmed on location in the mountains of Colorado. An RKO pre-production memo described this project as unpleasant but powerful. It is likely to emerge as an art production, which may receive critical acclaim, but no sizable box office returns. On its release, it failed on both counts. But in a 1970 interview, Bernard Herrmann recalled it as one of his most rewarding projects. He considered one sequence in particular the finest combination of direction, editing, and scoring he'd ever worked on. Surprising, perhaps, given some of the renowned classics he scored. Okay then, Maestro, let's see and listen for ourselves. Here is On Dangerous Ground.